Welcome back, everyone. Oh my God, I'm so glad to bring on my next guest because I know he knows what he's doing and it's not going to be as crazy as the last one. I have now with me Michael Van Vleck, and he's the owner of Denali Real Estate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carol.
You have to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
I also want to remind me, if I'm not correct, did you have your own show at one time?
I did on another station for a little while.
It's credibility. That's what I want to talk about.
Sure,
Let's talk a little bit about yourself and what you do. Go ahead.
It's all real estate. But one of the things I did want to do, since it is September 11th, I did want to take a minute. I know you did that at the very beginning of the last hour, to thank all of our first responders, for everyone out there who works to make our lives safer. One other thing I did want to mention, one thing that a lot of people talk about on this day is everyone remembers where they were September 11th, what was going on when all this was unfolding. Everybody remembers that. But one of the things that I remember more than anything else is during that time, there was this overwhelming sense of country and patriotism and camaraderie. And I would say during this time of the season where partisan politics tend to come into play, I think we should all remember that we all are on the same team, playing for the same country with the same interests. So do something for your fellow American, and have a blessed weekend. I think that's what we should all be taking away from that.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Great words. I want to also, you've been doing real estate for a very long time.
I have.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do.
Sure. The real estate company that I own specializes in investment-related properties. So that would be anyone who is trying to buy a property for investment purposes, whether it be a rental property, a commercial property, or anything related to that. So my background before doing real estate was in institutional investments, and so being able to analyze investments at a high level was an expertise that I had, which brings a lot of value to investors that are our current clients to be able to offer that. So we specialize in doing that. Part of that process is also managing the properties for them once they do purchase them. So we kind of take care of the whole process for them. It's a turnkey kind of thing for them.
Okay. Now, when people work with you, can you work with anyone from anywhere?
Absolutely. We have clients from all over the world. So you don't necessarily have to be in Arizona. The vast majority of our clients aren't from Arizona. So they all have some geographic limitation. So they need somebody who is an expert locally who can get them information that they need, and it needs to be, typically, if you're an investor, your level of sophistication is a little higher than somebody who's a first-time home buyer or somebody who's just buying a home to live in. So the needs are definitely different.
Right. Now, when you're talking with somebody that you say are out of state or out of the country or what have you, do you do consultations with them? How do they, because I think that's what this is all about. They're getting that information from you. You have to work pretty close with your clients.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of that is that they'll have a lot of questions. Everyone is unique, so everybody has their own circumstance. That's okay. I think it's a matter of being in this business is how do you facilitate those unique circumstances and deliver a product to them that they're expecting.
Now, your phone number for them to call is area code 480-626-4062. His website is DenaliArizona.com. I want to go into some of these things that you wanted to talk about today, which is what?
Well, one of the things that a lot of people ask for in general, it's one of the things I get asked the most. I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about it. It's not necessarily the investor side of things, but rather the tenant side of things. So there's a lot of people in the marketplace today looking for rentals, and it's not easy. A lot of people are having difficulty right now because the rental market's kind of tight. So people always ask me, I'm having trouble here, or I'm having trouble there. What can I do? And so I think the easiest thing for a lot of people is, based on my thousands of examples that I have gone through, what is it that you can do to do things a little bit better?
I just read just yesterday while I was sitting somewhere that right now, baby boomers, which is a lot of these listeners, okay, are big-time renters now. It used to be that they own homes, they might have not. Now they don't even want it. They want to downsize. They don't want to have somebody. I read it in a huge article yesterday.
Well, and here in Phoenix, we have a little bit of a unique market in that a lot of those folks that live somewhere out of state are downsizing, but one of the things that they end up doing is coming here and renting a home. So they may be downsizing somewhere else, but we are a winter destination, and a lot of people will come here and rent homes, or they'll buy a home here and then want to rent it out for part of the year that they're not here.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, it ends up being good for us and good for our economy.
Now, I'm going to be renting a home in Phoenix in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do I begin?
Well, I think that for the first thing, most people will say, well, I'm going to dive in and start looking at rentals. Well, see what this is going on, what's available. I think the first thing you have to do is take a step back and say, what is it that I can afford? What's your budget? And there's an easy way to do that. I will tell you this, most property management companies will use a very basic litmus test, and that is your gross income, that is before any taxes are taken out, must be at least 3 times the rental amount. So, very easy example. If you make $1,000, or you're renting a house that's $1,000 a month, you must make at least 3 times that, $3,000 a month, to qualify. If it's less than that, I can tell you, I have examples where it's almost with absolute certainty that somebody's going to run into trouble during their lease. So we steer away from those.
Let me talk about that for 1 minute, okay? Because a lot of people had trouble, okay? They had that, and they're listening to here too. There are people that are listening here that they didn't have the resources anymore that they used to because whatever happened in their life, and they end up then renting. Is that sort of different? Because it used to be, I remember a time when we were saying, oh, it doesn't matter anymore because you're one amongst many people. Has that changed?
Sure.
I'm asking for a reason.
Well, it hasn't necessarily changed. A lot of it comes down to what are the reasons for the issues? What are the reasons underlying the issues? And I think being on a fixed income, you can still adjust for that. I can tell you just from a high overview profile, I'm not profiling, but I will say, you had mentioned older folks earlier that are retiring. The vast majority of them actually have very good credit. They've not had to foreclose, or because they bought their homes a long time ago. They always had a very strong equity position. They didn't have to short sale. So having said that, most of the people that were in trouble and did short sell their homes or went through a foreclosure, those are now past the time that they would have to wait.
That's why I asked you that question. So things are, and the people that we're listening to right now, or that listen right now, might just be the ones that don't. They already have decent credit.
Well, yes and no. So in my case, my screening is different than a lot of other companies, but I use more of a mathematical model for a big component of it. And one of the things that I can say is having a short sale or a foreclosure on your history has never been a sign that you're not a good renter. So in other words, that factor is not a good determinant. In fact, I've had the exact opposite. People who have been homeowners in the past know how to take care of a home. They know how to unclog a sink. They know how to do certain things to maintain it. They tend to be great renters. So it's kind of opposite of what you would think.
Okay. Now, before we go to a break, because it always goes by so fast, I just wanted to tell them right now, when should they start searching?
Usually within 60 days. If you're relocating from out of state, you might want to take a little bit longer because you're going to get more familiar with the areas. So 60 days is usually a good
60 days. And should they go up on, so they can go on these sites that they have and just start looking there? Where do they start looking?
Yeah, when we come back from break, we can talk about all the great little places that they can go to look for those different places that they might be wanting to find.
Now, we're going to go ahead and give out their information, which is 480-626-4062. Their website is DenaliArizona.com. I love the conversation because so many people out there are renting. They are going to be looking. They want to have. They don't want to have the hassles of owning a home anymore.
Absolutely.
They don't need that write-off. Okay, so again, that number is 480-626-4062. His website is DenaliArizona.com. We'll be back in just a minute. Hang on tight. How did you like it?
It was great.
Did you like me?
You're fantastic.
Oh, cool. I like that. I like to hear that.
No, you're fantastic. I didn't know how much time we had, so I didn't want to
It's okay. I just wanted to go.
I strung you along.
What I did. It's cool. I let you talk a little bit further about some, in the beginning, a little bit more about some stuff,
for
and
sure.
that's probably what that happened. We are now on the best. Well, no, we have to go back on. What did we say before we went to a break of? Where to look? Where to look?
Yeah,
where to
three.
look?
We're on 3.
But we're on.
What are the best ways to find a renter?
Oh, same thing. Okay, same thing.
Same,
okay,
your same
thing.
question.
Okay, no
You're
problem.
like right on the money.
I am good. Okay, good. We don't really have to talk about for it because you've kind of done that. Okay, about the negative for bad credit.
For sure.
Okay. I think it's great. This next one here, is it better to rent for an individual? I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, I happen to think, and I'm sorry, I don't know what other people think, but in my opinion, what do I really need it for? I mean, the write-off, to own a home is the write-off.
Yep,
but there's a lot of hassles with it.
Totally agree.
And I think
agree.
more and more. And like I said, I just read this. I was at I had my car. I brought a new car, and I had my car serviced yesterday. And I was just sitting there, and it is in, by the way, Property Management Magazine. What's that called? Realtors Property Management. Give me the name of the man. You know it?
Well, there's a couple different ones.
Well, I don't remember the name of it. It was something like that.
Arizona School of Real Estate and Business puts out a.
It might be
book
that one.
like that.
It might be that. But it was just sitting there. And I read that right there yesterday, and I was like, wow, that's so on the money, because that's like me. I don't know if I'm thinking, do I want to own a home going
A lot of
forward?
people want less hassle.
Exactly.
And in some of the numbers, if you crunch some of the numbers, it can actually be more financially beneficial and to rent. But here's the other thing. If you are a baby boomer, they want flexibility.
That's what this whole thing was talking
They
about.
want to get out. They want to be not tied to this
If you come
house.
on in October, I'll bring you the article.
Okay,
So
perfect.
you can see it, because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
amazing. It just so happened, and I didn't even put two and two together until we were just talking.
Flexibility
just now.
for baby boomers is the name of the game.
Yeah.
It really is.
And not having the hassle if something goes wrong, they can call somebody. Someone like you, they don't have to call. But I mean, it's true that. But having someone like him, working for someone like him, is a great thing for you. Having those people that they know they rely on someone like you.
Totally
But
agree.
really, in all honesty, I can see that, when the plumbing goes wrong or if the pool, something is happening, the people don't want to deal with it anymore. Right?
No,
Yeah, they don't. They're like, what do I need this for?
And
My father owned his home till the day he died. And he was I tell you something, I mean, it was in pretty darn good shape. That's the way they lived, though. I mean, they happened to live like that. And my dad always had, he went in and had all the best piping and all that when they built the home. They had money, they could do that,
But life was different then. You did things for long periods of
Yes,
time.
30, they were in that
Right.
one home for 40 years.
And you worked at the same job
Right.
forever. You
Right.
lived at the same job
Those
forever.
are things we should talk about now, too. That's
But-
pretty cool.
But now people don't want to do that.
No. They want to get short. Everything is short and sweet. Go ahead. So we're back, and we are talking with Michael Van Vleck, and he is the owner of Denali Real Estate. I love the conversation that we're talking about because, like I said, I was just reading yesterday, and it was my mind when I read how that they were talking about baby boomers, how they want to rent now. They don't need that. And
Absolutely.
we were talking at the break why? Tell them why this is.
Well, I think it's just a changing culture. I mean, you go from being in a position where, maybe a generation prior, retirement meant you don't have to work anymore, and that was kind of it. Now, retirement means something totally different. It means it's the next phase of your life where you're going to take on new adventures, and there's a new journey. And so, in a lot of cases, they don't want to be trapped by owning a home, having this home that they have to care for on a regular basis, and so they want to downsize, become renters possibly, and travel.
And you said even that sometimes when you crunch the numbers, it's better. Go ahead.
It can, especially if you're in a position where, you are in retirement. You can't survive with a level of market volatility. So in other words, if your home value is at X and the market takes a pooper, then you basically are in a situation where you have negative equity or an equity position that's not so good, and you're expecting to live off that money. it's better at times when you're in retirement to take some of that money off the table because you don't have the time to wait. You can't wait it out. You can't say, well, I'm going to live here for 20 years. I got time, no problem. You can't do that.
You don't know. All right, so what is the best way to find a rental?
Well, today it's different than it was even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The market is very different in terms of how do you go about finding even information. So the internet has really taken over the search process for a lot of people, whereas used to you would look in the paper, look at the ads, circle the ones you wanted.
Don't you remember those days?
Right. I mean, it sounds so old. It's so manual.
I forgot about doing all of that. Wow, a newspaper. Right. It was so cool. Go
Your
ahead.
hands are all black after. So, right now it's more internet-based. There's a lot of great ways for people to access information through the internet. Craigslist is one that people still use. Rentals.com, Zillow.com are big places that people go to find rentals. There's lots of great information to go through there and find on rentals. So a lot of times you just have to weed through the information, but it's all there for you to find.
Okay, and you can check. Do you have? I just got to ask this on your website. Do you list any of your rentals?
We list all of our rentals on our website, and a lot of times, this is kind of the key, is a lot of times homes are about to come up. We can't quite list them on our website yet, but they're about to come up. Like I know of 5 or 6 new owners that are signing up with us that homes are going to be available here shortly, but they're not marketed yet. So a lot of times if you have a good contact, or you can call my office and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Do you guys know of anything? You can call our office at 480-626-4062. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
Do you have houses all around this, the valley, or is there a certain area that your houses are in?
We do cover the whole valley. So we have houses from Surprise all the way over to Scottsdale, Cave Creek, down to Queen Creek, and everything in between.
And their phone number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Denali, Arizona.com. And I'll tell you something, you're listening to this, and we all know with people that are coming here, the holidays are coming, it's getting cooler, we have family that's coming in, maybe they want to rent, maybe you know someone who wants to rent. That's what this show is all about. It's all about talking and telling other people about it as well. So again, that number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com. All right, so this is big. This is huge. Is it better for somebody to rent from an individual or a property owner, a property management company?
Sure. Well, those are two different things. So an individual owner is somebody who's going to manage the property themselves, so you'll pay the rent directly to them. If you have any issues, you're going to call them directly. A management company, obviously, you're going to deal with a professional company. There is no right answer. There is not one, I think, that's necessarily better than the other. And the reason is that it's really an individual case-by-case basis decision. Not all property management companies are good. Not all individual owners are good. So you kind of just have to see. If you find a property that you like and you call on it, I would say overall, how responsive are they? If they're not answering the phone, what are they going to do when you have a maintenance call or a problem? They're probably not going to answer then either. So are they responsive? How is it that they're going through the process? Does it seem like they're a person or company that's working with you, not against you? How easy is it to go through the process? Does it seem like they know what they're doing? If you seem that it's difficult dealing with them in this upfront process, then it's probably going to be when you live there as well.
Well, I'll tell you, I know that years ago, I've been doing this show for a long time. I've had thousands of people on the show, and I've talked about real estate before, okay? Sure. And it used to be that at one point, if you were thinking about renting, you were a little nervous about renting from just an owner.
Sure.
Because you didn't know if that house was going to, at some point they could come knocking on the door. They're not paying their rent.
Is
that still the same?
Well,
that's why I'm asking.
Not as much that, but what does happen, and this is one of the things that you have to do a little due diligence. You can't just hope and pray, although praying is good sometimes. Sure, absolutely. One of the things that you really need to do with an individual owner, it's not so much that they might foreclose, but what has happened is there's people who will post ads like on Craigslist, for example. They're not the actual owner of the property. So they take your money, you think you're moving into the house,
Wow.
and guess what? You're not. So
That's real scary.
it does happen. That's the one thing with a professional company that you can get around is, obviously they have more information available about them. You can look up any licensed property management company. You can look them up on the Department of Real Estate's website. They will be listed there. They have to be licensed. So there are some assurances there if you do go that route. And the other thing is they are more versed in the laws of Arizona, where when I run into a lot of individual owners, they really don't know. They kind of guess, or they say, well, that's not right. I don't think it should be done that way. Well, it doesn't really matter what you think. It's about what the law says that you're required to do.
Again, there's laws for both sides of this,
That's right.
And as a tenant, it would seem to me, what are some of the things that they should look out for when you're thinking about, when you look at these houses, I don't know if you know on Zillow whether or not that it's owned by a property or if it says that. It must.
It usually does, yeah.
Okay.
The one difficulty with using a Zillow, for example, is you end up having to go through a software that's not necessarily up to date.
Right.
So the multiple listing service, which any realtor can help you, navigate through, is the really, truly only accurate system. And even then, when you call on a property, they may have already 2, 3, 4 applications on it, and so it is competitive right now. Now that makes it a little tougher.
So, but you have houses. You have houses throughout the valley.
We do. We have a limited number. They are going
They
pretty
go
fast.
fast.
We have about 600 rentals that we manage, and I think right now we have some new ones coming on, but we're only down to like 5.
Wow,
Amazing.
that shows you what was really going on out there.
Well,
Lots and
I don't
lots
know
of
that that's a
rentals.
consistent figure from a market perspective, but we work very hard to rent our homes and keep them rented. So, I think that it is a tight market in general, though.
Okay, and again, any other advice that you would have for anyone that's looking for a rental right now? We have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, well, there's a couple easy things. I think first and foremost, in anything in life, being nice goes a long way. Now, there's a lot of people that we deal with on a regular basis, and you would be surprised how many people aren't nice in general. I mean, obviously, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the property because you're being nice, but just have a positive attitude and go through the process, be nice to others, and you would be surprised how far that can get you. But it may not get you the property, but I will say this, by being negative or being kind of more difficult, it can put you in a position where you don't get the property. So that's number one. Number two, when you make an appointment, show up on time. They're going to expect you to do that. You'd be surprised how many people don't for whatever reason. A lot of times people don't show up.
Well, when you don't, first of all, anytime that you're being honorary, there's usually a little reason for that, okay? So
That's right.
Don't be. And if you're not showing up on time, that means you're not paying on time.
Amen. So the people who don't show up for appointments, I'm okay with it because it likely means there's some other issue. They're probably not going to pay on time anyway.
Right. What's your final words for today?
Well, I would say this. When you show up, be presentable. Wear good clothes. Don't wear something that you wore yesterday that's dirty. So it does matter. Just be presentable. That's how you're going to keep your house.
You know what? It is so true. It is all about you. We all should be doing this anyway, guys. I think we all should dress for success and be that way anyway.
Amen.
Again, you should check them out. And their number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com.